Good evening, good evening, good evening. Thank you all so much for being here, and thank you to our probably about 150 students who are joining us online instead of in person. Welcome to Fast Food for Thought. So this event is part of a course that's in a second to last week for the semester called Food Literacy for All. That course is in its 10th year at this university. It's my first time teaching it. I'm really excited to be here. I'm Amanda Edmonds. I'm one of the co-instructors for the course. Julius Buzzard, our community co-instructor, isn't with us tonight. He had a long arranged fellowship that he's out of town for this week, but he wishes well. And Josiah Foster from Growing Hope, where Julius Buzzard is executive director, is here with us this evening in his stead. So this course has been going for 10 years. It is a product of the Sustainable Food System Initiative here at the University of Michigan. It's supported by the Program in Environment, the School for Environment and Sustainability, which is the building we're in right now, and a number of community partners, including Growing Hope, the Oakland Avenue Urban Farm, and Detroit Food Policy Council, and the Detroit Black Community Food Sovereignty Network. So this is a pretty unique course in that it is open to the public. So we have 230 undergraduate and graduate students from the University of Michigan enrolled, and we have a total registrants on Zoom, because every other week just about is on Zoom, of about 1,050 people now. So that's about 800 folks from 21 countries on 6 continents. We counted up. So what an amazing course. And we're lucky to have some of our founders of this course with us tonight. And we'll hear from one of them, Jen Blash, who was our very first instructor for this course, as one of our introducers this evening. So we're excited for you to be here with us for Fast Food for Thought, these 5-minute flash talks. I want to give a shout out to the rest of our team, myself and Julius. Taylor Julene is our GSI. She makes a lot of things happen, including students, all of your grades. Ask her your questions about grades, not me. Sammy Maldonado is a course coordinator who is joining us from Minneapolis, where she is now based. She graduated last year. We have both Chris and Marissa here from LSNA IT. This course takes a lot of people. Sam's at one of the doors. She's our undergrad communication support person. And then we've got also all of our community partners, as well as Leslie Huey, one of the founders of this course, who is working on helping the caterer get in. We're excited for the food tonight and her assistance in doing that. If you want to follow the U of M Sustainable Food System Initiative on social media, you can do that if you don't already. We've just gotten this LinkedIn going. And every week, by just about Friday each week, we have that week's lecture uploaded to our YouTube channel and our website. So many people we know who are enrolled in the class as community members all over the world may not join because of time zone or schedules, etc., but they follow so that they can touch base. There are some incredible speakers this term, and so I encourage you to go take a look at the YouTube channel and watch some of the other videos. You can fast forward about 5 minutes after we get all through all this part to get to kind of the good stuff of a given video. Students enrolled and otherwise, want to remind you that we have the Food Systems Course Guide live for fall of 2026. So as you're still choosing courses, we go through and literally search all of the schools across the whole campus for anyone who's doing a class related to food, and we put them all together for you in one list. So take a look at that so you can see what to add to your schedule as you continue to explore food as part of things. Also, for those of you who are new, once in each class we select a student video that is a response to that week's readings, kind of cues us up for that week's speaker. But for this class, we have the students who are assigned to do a video that week kind of summarize the class for us. And so we choose one of those and share it in the class. So this is about a 1-minute video from Will T., who's a master's student here in C's.
What I've learned in this class about the unifying power of food is, I think, simply just the fact that there's so many different ways and so many different connections that really, tie into, what we eat, whether it is, coming together to fight against a system that may have, oppressed certain groups to not have the capability to control food prices or where they get their food or where it comes from, or the standards that were set, or it is farmers coming together to, help with different practices or ways that their food is raised, or come together so that their pricing that they're receiving, and then even just best practices to grow food and distribute it to different people, so that they're able to ultimately control the food they eat.
So that's Will T's a quick summary of the whole course. So go back and watch the videos for a lot more in depth. And I won't say that I had a favorite this year, but Pedro Chantel from Brazil, from the homeless workers movement, was an incredibly inspirational look from another country who is dealing with and has dealt with political issues and challenges we've dealt with, and has mobilized and organized in incredible ways, including around food. So if you only watched one, that's my recommendation, is watch Pedro's from a couple weeks ago on our YouTube channel. Okay, students, gear up your iClicker, and anyone watching on Zoom who is not a student, you're to join us on a Zoom poll. Everyone else, just don't worry about this. Students get credit from this course by doing iClicker questions throughout the class. But we do ask this question, so please just reflect to yourself. What does the unifying power of food mean to you right now? So you can read those and just reflect to yourself. Taylor's launching the poll there behind the scenes. Food links us to our bodies, memory, family history, and identities. Food can strengthen neighborhoods and communities. Food can build trust, reciprocity, and relationships. Food can help people organize, resist, and support one another. Food reveals how we're all connected through larger systems. You got some results? Yeah. I'll come to you.
Okay. So most of our students are saying A, and then we have 30% of our students saying B, and 18% are saying C, and then D and E, we have a smaller percentage of folks.
Great, thanks so much. Thank you for that. So, gearing up, we have a great lineup. I'm not going to go through each one because we've got some incredible introducers. So, Dr. Benedict Bosseron, come on up, is the instructor from this class last year and generously taught me a lot of things when I was brand new to the university about how to do this class. She's going to start with our first speaker. We'll then have Jen Blesh coming up. They'll briefly introduce themselves, but Jen, as you learned, was the original instructor for Food Literacy for All. And Dr. Margot Finn over here is our two-time instructor for Food Literacy for All. So we've got great veterans who will be handing it off to each speaker. Over to you.
Thank you, and good evening, and welcome to everyone. My name is Benedict Bosseron, and I'm a professor and the chair of the Department of Afro-American and African Studies. And as Amanda just said, I was the co-instructor last year for Food Literacy for All, which was a very exciting experience, and I hope you had a great semester and you found it just equally exciting. So I'm really happy today to introduce Amanda Ewing, who is the Director of Culture and Engagement for Michigan Dining. Amanda will give a talk on the people who feed us, and their favorite food is stuffed kousa, which is a Lebanese summer zucchini stuffed like grape leaves. Thank you.
Hi. They say you can taste it when food is cooked with love. My favorite food is kousa. It's an Arabic stuffed squash. It's a dish that takes time. It's a production. It's a process. I like kousa from restaurants and grocery stores. I love the kousa that my mom makes. When I think of food as a unifier, I'm thinking about what is happening around that food. It is a catalyst for conversation, connection, community, and memory. Every year, I teach a class called Culture and Hospitality Leadership for Michigan Dining Leaders. In the first class, I asked participants to identify a food that they've heard negative and positive messages about and how that food impacted their identity development. For me, I normally talk about grape leaves. The negative messages are pretty easy. That's weird, different, ew. The positive messages, though, were transformative. I learned to make grape leaves at a gathering surrounding the death of my favorite aunt, my Auntie Ree. She was my Sito's sister and best friend, and she was always there for ballet recitals and concerts and shows. Her favorite food was chocolate, and she would elbow a kid out of the way to get to it. When her health was deteriorating, my aunts gathered to cook for all the people coming to visit. That's when I first learned how to make grape leaves. With hands stained by the leaves, I rolled and folded and layered. I listened to stories and learned more about myself in those stories. I learned about my family, where they had come from, and where the women teaching me learned how to roll grape leaves. I can still remember the taste of that first time. For my high school graduation, I wanted grape leaves at the party. The taste of that memory still fresh for me. My mom sent me off to my umpto to help her with the preparation. Again, I rolled, folded, and listened, this time noticing the differences from one house to another. Small changes that added depth and story. As an adult, I learned that the stuffing for grape leaves is the same as the kusa recipe. These two foods tied together. These are the stories of the people who have fed me, whose memories lift up whenever I gather around a table to share a meal, are as much a part of the food as the produce and the recipe and the preparation. The labor is a part of the experience. When I first joined the University of Michigan, I was disconnected from the people. My job is staff-facing, but like many of our guests, when I walked into a dining hall, I sometimes forgot that food doesn't magically cook itself and end up at a service window. The people I work with are exceptional, not just exceptional cooks, but also generous, fantastic storytellers and hilarious human beings. They are passionate about their work, sustainability, and community. The People Who Feed Us is a project that celebrates and highlights the diverse individuals working in essential yet underrepresented roles within Michigan dining and our partner vendors. These roles include kitchen cleaners and cooks and extend to our distributors, retail vendors, and their staff. By sharing their stories, we aim to promote inclusivity, foster recognition, and shine a light on the vital contributions that these individuals make to our community. And in The People Who Feed Us, team members share their backgrounds, their roles in Michigan dining, the challenges that they face, what they enjoy about their work. Staff members who have participated in this program aren't nominated, they nominate themselves. It's not tied to their performance, it's based on how they think of recognition and what they value. The stories sit by service stations, and I bring them with me to conferences. They're featured at events. They're opportunities to connect service to servers. We've also translated these stories into the first language of team members, if that first language isn't English. We've translated them into 16 different languages at this point. And while I have a particular fondness for this project, these stories that celebrate our team, this project was led by student interns of mine who did all of the interviews, all of the translations, all of the logistical arrangements. When I moved away to college, my sitto handed me a book called Saktain, which means good health and dig in Arabic, loosely translated. As she explained it, this cookbook was the result of the women at the Islamic Center Women's Club getting together and arguing until they came to a standard recipe for every major Arab food. It's where I start when I'm making grape leaves or kusa, but nothing is quite right in this cookbook. See, the women had to come to a consensus, and so some of the specifics are missing. My copy has notes in the pages and added spices and ratios. I've added the personal back in. In many ways, this is what we do at Michigan Dining every day. We're cooking 25,000 meals a day, but the people who feed us are adding in the smaller personal details with passion, recipe development, hospitality, and service. At Michigan Dining, we strive to be the consummate host. We believe that this is the experience that our students and our staff deserve, and we know that we each bring something important to the table. And at Michigan Dining, we all have a place at our table.
Great. Good evening, everyone. I'm Jen Blesh. I'm an associate professor in SEAS and part of the Sustainable Food Systems Initiative, an agroecologist, and as Amanda mentioned, part of the big team of people that it took to develop this course way back in 2017. So it's an honor to be here. Usually I'm here for Fast Food for Thought. It's a wonderful event. And as one of the sort of old guard now, I'm really delighted to introduce one of our newest members, Dr. Jules Reynolds, literally just got here during spring break, I think, a new lecturer in Program in the Environment. Dr. Reynolds will give a talk on the transformative power of farm to table, and her favorite food is fresh berry pie.
Hi. It is so good to be here with all of you tonight. I have been following along all semester. Shout out to my students in our discussion section. I see some of you in the back there. So my goal for the next few minutes with you is to invite you to think critically about the transformative potential of farm to table. Because I truly believe that farm to table can help us address some of the challenges that we've been talking about in this class all semester long. Challenges like bridging the urban-rural divide, right? Challenges like building healthier soils and addressing food insecurity in our communities. But I need you to think critically about farm to table because it's not inherently transformative, and here's why. Who here has heard this phrase before? If you've worked in the service industry, you've probably heard this phrase. If you've ever gone to a restaurant and sat down at a table and asked your server to hold the onions or put chicken breast on your salad, you've probably enacted this value because a lot of our restaurant industry is predicated on this assumption, right? The customer is always right. We place a lot of power in the consumer, and that has real impacts on our farmer and on our food system. Briefly, who am I to tell you about farm to table tonight? I'm literally a farm to table researcher. I worked with farmers, farm to table businesses. I worked at a farm to table restaurant for over 5 years in southern Wisconsin. And together we asked questions about how do we make our farm to table model more transformative? How do we build resilience into our food system through this farm to table economy? And so here's what we learned, that when restaurants prioritize the consumer's decision-making, that means that food tends to be treated as a commodity, right? A thing that is, the thing's value is really just worth its economic transactional value, right? And when that happens, we tend to displace the farmer from the food system, where now the farmer loses control and needs to respond to those market pressures from the consumer. Okay, but we were trying to do things differently, and we were trying to explore how to build resilience into our farm-to-table model. And what we found is that when the restaurants prioritized the farmer's decision-making, and we could give the farmer back the control and autonomy over their food system, they were better able to make decisions that benefited their family and their farm and their communities, and that had real value on their farms. It really created more agroecological on-farm resilience, because food was treated as part of a larger agroecological and social system, right? Not just as a thing or a commodity. And when that happened, yeah, sure, the consumer lost out on a little bit of individual choice, but they gained becoming an active participant in supporting a healthier food system. So what did this actually look like? Well, it might look like serving pastrami that's made out of cow heart, right? Because a farmer has to raise an entire animal. The farmer's not just raising bacon or brisket. So it looks like a restaurant buying all parts of an animal. It looks like a restaurant purchasing all different kinds of crops, not just, an iceberg lettuce salad. So the restaurant does need to be more adaptable to the farmer's needs, and that certainly puts more work on the restaurant, on the kitchens and the chefs, right? But it was worthwhile to the restaurant because it kept people coming back over and over again. Because what we found is that people really appreciated flipping that script and moving away from that neoliberal challenge, right, of the individual consumer choice towards collective participation and building a healthier local food system. What our research found was that we were actually able to build not just on-farm resilience, but greater community and social resilience as well. People responded really well to this kind of model. So I'm just going to leave you with the next time that you are looking to make a difference in your food system, maybe make some small steps towards some transformative change, I would challenge you to find ways to flip that script, right, and let the farmer be right. And I'll leave you with that. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. I'm Margot Finn. I taught this course in 2022 and 2024, and I'm excited to introduce our next speakers who are going to be presenting together. We have Gabriel Queller and Athar Mufra, who are faculty members in the Taubman College of Architecture and Urban Planning, and they're going to tell us about landways and local food systems. Their favorite foods are seasonal vegetables.
Thank you so much. We're delighted to participate in this very inspiring program. We'd like to thank Malak Outwi, who has really developed a lot of this material together with us, and the Lincoln Institute for Land Policy, which provided support. We would like to present an approach that we have been developing to study local food systems using the lens of land-based practices. Such practices cultivate environments in which belonging, local governance, and good relations with kin are prioritized. We refer to this intersection of land-based practices and environment building as landways. We're interested in how local food systems relate to physical places in which food is cultivated, processed, shared, and celebrated. We use drawings and maps, such as this one, to bring these places into view, illustrate the qualities of the places in which they unfold, and clarify their value for a world in which industrialization tends to drive detachment from place and from land.
This approach has informed our collaboration with a Palestinian farming village nestled in a valley near Bethlehem in the West Bank. As we relearn and reactivate the grounded reciprocal relationships that are needed for local food systems, such villages offer much to be inspired by. Together with farmers and the village council there, we have documented the local food system and sought to highlight the practices that make up the cultural landscape. This is a village known for its agricultural heritage, and despite many challenges, most of its long-established landways continue to be practiced today. This can be observed in the rain-fed agricultural terraces, the ancient irrigation canal and pool network, the rooftops where food is preserved, the daily lunch menu, and the common mulberry or fig trees that provide fruit for the whole village. Herbs that grow through the cracks in the mountains, the generous sharing of vegetables with neighbors, the humble farmer sheds which dot the landscape, and a system of land commoning which animates and governs the watershed of the valley. What is most impressive about these landways, despite originating in ancient civilizations, is that they persist in the villagers' daily life even today. And these villages have intimate knowledge about maintaining and passing them on. A few examples that you see here. The first one is the terraces. In this area or region, much of the land is mountainous. The villagers strategically settled in the upper portion of the watershed that's historically leaving as much arable land in the valley as possible. They also transformed the mountains into agricultural terraces. These consist of dry stone walls that retain soil for rain-fed agriculture, and typically fruit and olive trees that are cultivated there. The walls are often patched every spring with the stones which are already present on site. Second is the irrigation network. The village has an extensive natural flow irrigation network consisting of constructed pools and canals to distribute water across the valley, drawing from several natural springs. For many generations, the water flow is shared according to a timetable and a system of commoning. The pools are used in many different ways, including recreation. And the last one, the third, is the farmer shed. Every farmer has a small self-built shed in the field. It provides spaces away from home and is an infrastructure for social agriculture, which is farming done collectively in family and kin groups. The sheds consist of storage room for farming tools and access to the irrigation system, and also a grapevine where people can do picnics there.
Landways create a network of interconnected places and practices reflecting intergenerational knowledge of land and life. Studying landways is a way to illuminate the place and land-based dimensions of local food systems, in turn helping to reveal the ways we can support the land practices on which food relations depend. Thank you.
So next we have Dr. Francesca Williamson, who is an assistant professor at the Medical School's Department of Learning Health Sciences. Sorry. Dr. Williamson will give a talk on reclaiming our right to food, insights from food system transformation in Washtenaw County, and their favorite drink is water.
Thank you. All right, so as I'm sharing, I encourage you to think about what the right to food means to you. The main takeaway for my talk today is this: achieving health justice depends on our ability to shift the narrative about food. And to do this, we need all of our stories. First, a little bit about my story. This is a picture of me probably eating dirt. My family is from the Black Belt in the American South and communities of formerly enslaved Africans. This is my first connection to food. In this picture, I'm standing on territory recognized by indigenous Hawaiians as their ancestral grandmother, Papaha no Moku. Like my family, indigenous Hawaiians experienced and continue to experience colonial and capitalist violence, alienating us from our traditional foodways, our places, and our people. However, violence is not our only story. Our stories include joy, hope, liberation, and what indigenous scholars have called survivance. When I moved to Washtenaw County, the first thing I did was find a place to get my hands in the dirt. Given my own connection to food, I sought out food organizations focused on liberation and justice. Eventually, I began volunteering with the composting crew at Growing Hope in Ypsilanti. Growing Hope's mission is to foster an equitable and sustainable local food system where all people, including people like me, are empowered to grow, sell, prepare, and eat nourishing food. I learned that narrative change was a huge part of their work. They were shifting the narrative from charity to self-determination, agency, and autonomy, from consumption to joy and connection. They were centering community power and agency and dignity. These stories disrupt deficit food narratives while also imagining a more liberatory, healing food futures. For the last year, I've been learning from Growing Hope on their work about the right to food. With funding support from Michigan Health Endowment Fund and the Detroit URC, we are building a community academic partnership for research and policy advocacy for the right to food. Like other places in the United States, Washtenaw County's food system is shaped by oppressive histories and structures that regulate life chances and death. The data tells us that 1 in 4 Washtenaw County residents are exposed to food insecurities compared to 1 in 4 people in the United States. However, we know these local numbers also conceal racialized and place-based patterns and inequities. Michigan is also well positioned to move the needle on the right to food because we have a critical mass of people advocating for the right to food and food sovereignty across sectors and tribal communities. This story is about the right to food. It's also about a story about how we can disrupt the ways that oppressive systems have operated locally. I'm currently working alongside Growing Hope to shift the narrative by advocating for the a right to food resolution in Washtenaw County. You can use this QR code to access the full declaration for the right to food, and Josiah is here and has handouts too that provide an overview. For context, in 2021, the United Nations General Assembly voted on a resolution to make food a fundamental human right. Of the 186 voting members, only 2 nations opposed this resolution: the United States and Israel. In the United States, only 2 states, Maine and most recently New Jersey, have amended their constitutions to include the right to food. Tribal nations also have treaty rights that already include food sovereignty. These examples depend on organizing, advocacy, and new food stories. Stories about how oppressive systems continue to shape hunger, health, and foodways. Stories about workers' unfair and unsafe labor conditions. Stories that support the case for sustainable and ethical food production. We have learned from others that these stories create narrative power and systems change. Now I'd like you to invite you to share your story, whether you're a student or a professional trying to find good food on campus, or you might be a resident concerned about how data centers might impact both your light bill and your food budget, or maybe you want to protect the soil where kids eat dirt and people grow food. I invite you to share your story to help us shift the narrative about the right to food, both here locally and across the state of Michigan. Now, earlier I claimed that health justice depends on our ability to shift the narrative about food. By health justice, I mean building power among individuals and communities impacted by inequities to sustain the conditions that we need to be healthy and achieve justice. As a scholar of communication and health systems change, I know that narrative power is a critical part of health justice work, and we need all of our stories. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Okay, next up, Dr. Jeff Lewis is a research specialist in the Center for Sustainable Systems here in SEAS. He's been here at least 10 or so years, but has a much longer connection to U of M. Dr. Lewis is going to tell us about, I keep forgetting this step, life cycle carbon footprint analysis and improvement strategies for maple syrup production. Unsurprisingly, his favorite food is maple syrup. And that made me wonder, do you just like to drink it straight, or do you like to put it on something in particular? Okay, hand it over. Dr. Lewis.
Thanks, Jen. Yeah, so the restaurant you worked at was called Brix. Yeah. So this is trivia for everybody. You'll learn something tonight. Brix is a scale to show sugar content, right? So like Fahrenheit is used for temperature, Brix is how you measure sugar content, which is, something that happens in cider as well as maple. So, I'm going to talk, this is a bit of a research talk, so there'll be some graphs and stuff. So this is a project that was funded by the USDA. It ran for 3 years, and we had the people listed here all participated in the project. So this is the Maple 101. Here is, what is maple syrup? Well, it starts as sap from all trees in the Acer genus. So when that sap comes out of a tree, it's between 1 and 3 Brix percent sugar content. And how do you make syrup out of it? Well, you pull water out of it. You concentrate the sugar by removing water, usually by boiling. And if you keep going and keep pulling water out, you end up with maple sugar, which was the original transportable sweetener, right? So where is it made? So about 70% of the world's maple syrup is made in Canada. Okay. Trick question, it's not on the map. The other 30% comes from the US. Most of that comes from Vermont, but it comes from any place maple trees grow, including, weirdly, in the West, in Oregon and Washington, where it's big leaf maple. Very low sugar content, though, not very useful. So how is it made? So this is the process that we modeled in our research project. So you drill a hole in the maple tree and you put a tap in the tree, and then you either hang a bucket or connect a tubing network to collect all that sap over time. Maybe you're using a vacuum system to pull sap, become a sap sucker, pull sap out of the tree. And then you start removing water, and you either do it with boiling or you do it with, I've used the initials RO, this is reverse osmosis, which you may know as a water filtration technology. If you're a maple producer, you don't want the clean water, you want the water with the concentrated sugar in it, right? So RO is a way to concentrate sugar in a solution by using electricity, not by using combustion of a fuel, right? And then you filter and package and send it off to customers. So the romantic image is this upper one here, right? You've got the horse pulling the sled with the barrel and you're dumping buckets in, and when the sap is running, this is like an all day after day kind of thing. It's very hectic. And you pull it to your sugar house up in the woods and you've got your fire going, and it's very romantic, but more often than not, things look like this today, right? So this is a tubing system that's pulling sap, right? No more running around the woods. You just like pulling it into the sugar house all by itself. And the picture in the bottom is an evaporator. So that's an oil-fired, sort of moderately sized evaporator. So, I was asked to talk a little bit about the unifying power of food here, right? So this is my talk about the crazy culture around maple syrup, right? So this whole idea about a sugar shack, so this is where you're doing the boiling, making the syrup, maybe you're pouring it on fresh snow to make maple taffy. So this is like the US picture, so this is from Vermont. In Quebec, sugar shack is very different. it looks like this. It's a restaurant that's open a couple of weeks a year, where you and a couple hundred of your closest friends go and have meals that are all made, foods that are all made with maple syrup, right? And I don't know why this hasn't migrated out of Quebec, but it's kind of a thing in Quebec. So quite a jarring transition, I apologize for that. This is the model we used in our project. I'm not going to spend any time. If you want, there's a paper that I can give you a reference to. And this is the only graph I'm going to show, right? And the whole story here is this big drop, right, from here to here. What you're looking at is small producers that are using wood, and this is reverse osmosis. You're going from this step to this step, you're adding reverse osmosis, right? So it's just showing the importance of all the different technologies, that one in particular. And that was the same for wood-fired, oil-fired, small, medium, large, the whole spiel, right? So, you know, guidance for producers, the story we came up with at the end, you know, you want to decrease the boiling time, use RO, you want to use vacuum to maximize the output for a given energy input, make your evaporator more efficient. There are manufacturers that are making electric evaporators now, but they're not super popular because they're quite expensive. And then the second paper in this project was looking at our decarbonization decisions, also good financial decisions. That paper is in review, and I'll tell you the answer for RO in a vacuum. Yes, it is. And then the last paper was how to treat carbon sequestered in maple trees. We were focused more on production than anything else. Yep. A couple QR codes to look at. We produced an online calculator. You can look at that. And then we also made the cover of a journal for our first paper. So I will leave it there. Happy to talk to people after.
All right, next up we have Dr. Rose Wellman, who's an associate professor of anthropology, kindly joining us from the University of Michigan at Dearborn. She'll give a talk entitled Food Politics in Iran, Commemorating Martyrs in the Islamic Republic, and their favorite food is zeresh polo, which is barberry rice.
Thank you so much to the organizers. What does food have to do with politics and power? My research explores how this occurs in Iran and in other diasporas from the Middle East that are here in the US. I will focus on Iran today. The majority of my ethnographic research took place in a small town called Farsabad near the city of Shiraz. I focus on how women, specifically as wives and mothers, employ their understandings of Islam and Islamic ethics in connection to what I have found to be the religious practices of cooking and feeding to shape and protect their families. Some examples include making vows through food, votive sofres or nazari, ashadandun or soup for teething. And these women are making those foods in these photos. Family members share qualities of temperament, character, blessing, and purity that could be easily lost or developed. More than Islamic notions of kinship or mahram, this physio-sacred stuff of kinship was always shifting, an object of prayer, protection, and ethical work. To cultivate the right kind of family, they ate together around the dining cloth or sofre, shared blessing, and they organized household rituals to protect and cleanse their family. Choosing a moral baker, for instance, from a local farmer was a critical decision. They sought to shape their community in the same way, by distributing vast amounts of foods cooked at home into their neighborhoods among their neighbors and fellow townspeople. And this is an example of this in the month of Muharram, where about 10,000 pounds of rice are distributed around this local town as part of the rituals around Mahram and Muharram. It could also be political, though. So this was a political circumstance as well. They also participated in the grand rituals of state power, Islamico-national rituals that similarly emphasize the values of moral and pure kinship. In this photo, you see the mothers of martyrs at a commemoration for two unknown soldiers or unidentified martyrs who had been killed in the Iran-Iraq War and were later exhumed from the Iran-Iraq border and were now being buried and memorialized in Farsabad to create sacred space and remembrance in the town. These are the grave site for these two unknown martyrs. But what was interesting at this event was that in addition to celebrating or commemorating the martyrs, they also shared votive food. Again, there were vast pots of rice being distributed by soldiers to anyone who attended the event. And the people sitting next to me told me, because this martyr is unknown, we the people are his brother, his sister, his mother. And the food that they prepared and they spread around was yogurt, it was juice boxes, it was lentils and rice, a dish called adas polo, if you've ever had it. It's also very good. But for me, this event raised questions not only about the resonance between the family and the Islamically oriented state of Iran, but about how state elites utilize family emotions, practices, and home religious practices, including foodways, to legitimize certain views of citizenship. And so here you can see sort of the analogy I'm making between the nation and the family, and how it leads back to this question of state power and food and politics. There's an anthropologist named Anne McClintock who writes, "The family offers a natural figure for sanctioning social hierarchy within a putative organic unity of interests." In my book, which is called Feeding Iran, incidentally, I show how ideas of naturalness and blood as forms of kin-making appear in the national sphere to make an analogy between kinship and the nation. I also argue that this occurs through food. The same practices that people utilize in the home are being reproduced in the state to create this sense of broader national family life. This brings us to today. So now, as we know, we are in a war with Iran. And I just wanted to mention that there have been now years of sanctions, economic sanctions on Iran, which have greatly increased the prices and costs of food in the country as much as 4 or 5 times. In addition to this, we are now concerned about food insecurity in this country, which has not really faced this before. They had a lot of subsidized foods, like breads and things like this were subsidized, and now we're dealing with a situation that might lead to food scarcity and hunger. Thank you.
So next, we have Dr. Kate Bauer, who is an associate professor at the Department of Nutritional Sciences in the School of Public Health, and also the director of the new Institute for Food, Nutrition and Health Policy there. Her talk today is providing food with dignity, and their favorite food is chocolate chip cookies.
I couldn't remember what I put, but that sounds right. All right, thank you. Okay. So every month, 1 in 8 Americans receives food assistance from the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, or SNAP, commonly known as food stamps. The One Big Beautiful Bill, signed into law last summer, will cut $186 billion from the SNAP program. These changes will cause over 22 million families to lose all or some of their benefits. With these cuts, food pantries will play an even greater role in providing emergency food and making sure families don't go hungry. Food pantries come in lots of shapes and sizes, from a closet in a church to spaces that you would think are retail grocery stores. Food pantries do many amazing things, not limited, of course, to providing food and other essential items to families experiencing food insecurity. However, because of persistent stigma, racism, and discrimination, too many people are either embarrassed to use food pantries or experience trauma when they have finally gotten up the courage to ask for help. That trauma can come from actions such as being asked to provide their IDs to receive food, receiving poor quality or even rotten food, or hearing messages from staff and volunteers like, "Beggars can't be choosers." Rather than being a source of shame, food pantries can be places that treat people with dignity, and more so, even increase individuals' feelings of dignity when they walk through the door. Some food pantries across the country, often the more well-resourced ones, are already working to do just that. However, because food pantries are so decentralized, it's difficult to document what organizations are doing, identify what works, and disseminate that knowledge to less resourced organizations. Over the past year, I've been working in partnership with an advisory board of representatives of the emergency food system, alongside individuals with lived experience of food insecurity. We have implemented a multi-stage effort to identify strategies that food pantries can use to increase dignity. And through community feedback processes, we built a framework and tools to share with food pantries across the country, guiding them through organizational change to improve dignity. Our framework has 7 pillars. These are the key areas where organizations can improve their policies and practices. Within each pillar, we define the outcome to be achieved with clear indicators of progress and provide a library of example strategies to achieve these outcomes. While the pillars are not ranked, community representation is the foundation of them all. Community members must have a role in shaping leadership decisions and services if the goal is to provide dignity. The operations and service delivery pillar includes the strategies that pantries most often think about when we talk about increasing dignity. This includes co-locating social and healthcare services, offering foods that meet cultural and health needs, maintaining accessible hours, and improving safety and comfort, indoors and out, as often people have to wait in line for hours outside of food pantries in order to access food. We've learned that there are many opinions about what practices provide dignity. Should people shop for themselves, or is curbside pickup actually more dignified for individuals with disabilities and families with young children? Do nutrition labels empower choice or contribute to shame when someone wants that candy bar? There is no single answer. What matters is that organizations make decisions through respectful and equitable engagement with the people they serve. Implementing these strategies requires a commitment to staff and volunteer development, as well as evaluation and continuous improvement. This can be challenging, especially for smaller pantries with limited funding or those who may be hesitant to receive feedback. Being communicative and transparent about evaluation methods and findings is essential. People get pretty tired of giving input if they never hear the results or see change. We recognize that this work is only a small step in addressing the discrimination toward people who need emergency food resources, and food pantries can never be an adequate replacement for what we're losing from the SNAP program. But we hope that through our model and tools, more people can feel like what this pantry user describes, that every time she walks in to one of these pantries, this is up in around Traverse City, she knows she is welcome and her value her presence is valued. Thank you.
Great. Okay, next. Dr. Melissa Duheim is an associate professor in ecology and evolutionary biology in LS&A here at UM, and the director of the new Threads Collaborative for Natural Fiber Futures. I know she's supported some really exciting master's projects in Seas focused on the fiber shed. Her talk is titled, Can Michigan Grow What We Wear? Science for Bioregional Natural Fiber Futures. And her favorite drink is the first coffee of the day, Hyperion Roast with Whitney Farm Milk, which she calls her most pure and reliable form of joy. Love it.
It's really hard when you're anemic and the doctors tell you not to drink coffee for the first 2 hours of the day. True story this week. Okay, but thank you, and thank you for the invitation. So I'm going to take you back to 30,000 years ago when humans foraged a wild flax plant. They harvested it, twisted it, dyed it, and wove its fibers into this material, the top image here, which was found. It's the oldest known textile fiber in the archaeological record and was found in a Georgian cave. And this textile, it predates pottery, the wheel, and even written language. But then 9,000 years ago, humans first started to cultivate flax. It was one of the very first domesticated crops in the Fertile Crescent. You can see here this depiction from an Egyptian cave right after the wheat. Here's the harvesting of the flax. And so the ancient Egyptians, they wrapped their pharaohs and the sacred dead in the linen woven from flax. So across civilizations, human communities have looked to the land not only for food, but also for the fibers that clothed them, sheltered them, and they were used to express themselves. So fiber is a human innovation in relationship with the natural world, just like fermentation and selective breeding and seed saving. It's been treated as sacred material, not only a commodity. But then things changed. This is upside down. There we go. Things changed. That's not what we experience today. In the early 1900s, the petrochemical industry discovered that it could spin oil into thread. Nylon and polyester and acrylic replaced natural materials, and after World War II, these materials flooded the consumer market. And it was because they were convenient and cheap, and people were drawn to the futuristic allure of technology, but the true cost of those synthetic fibers were not part of this vision. And that's where we are now. We know now that each time you wash a garment, thousands of microplastics are released, and they've been accumulating for decades in our water, in our air, in our soil, and even in our bodies. Now, to make a t-shirt, we drill miles into the earth, refine petroleum, spin it into thread, and ship it around the globe, wear it briefly, and then landfill it. And the vast majority of textile waste is going to the global south. So meanwhile, a fiber crop like flax could grow out on the diag, and it grows to harvest in only 100 days, requires almost no water, very little water input, and returns to the earth at the end of life if it's not in more toxic compounds are not incorporated into the fiber. As a microplastics researcher for over a decade, synthetic fibers pollution was when I first took notice. Our samples from the Great Lakes were often inundated with plastic fibers. And I began to ask, what would research to support solutions look like? As an ecologist, my first thoughts were to follow the carbon, but that's another much longer talk. But it made the framework developed by Rebecca Burgess, who is the founder of FiberShed, very compelling. So first, what's a FiberShed? Many of us here probably know the concept of a watershed. A FiberShed is very similar. It's a geographical boundary that defines where materials come from and whose hands they pass through on their material journey. And the soil-to-soil cycle that makes the base of the theory of a FiberShed is one in which fibers are grown, harvested, processed, designed, made, worn, composted, and returned back to the earth at the end of its life in a fully functioning fiber shed within some geographical boundary, like the state of Michigan, for instance. And it's that same regenerative loop that's underpinned our ancestors' relationships with their natural material culture, but we've meandered from this path. The knowledge has not disappeared in the US. It's carried by foragers and farmers and shepherds, millers, weavers, and other craftspeople that have continued these traditions. I wanted to know what this cycle looked like today in Michigan. Who makes it up? What makes up the Michigan fiber shed? And what barriers exist? How can we support the cycle here? So I've worked with a team of students, many through the capstone program at SEAS, and through other funding, we've begun to map this. And what we see in Michigan is a very vibrant cycle, but we've also identified barriers. So first, in terms of knowing who's there, that led us to identify a furniture company based in Grand Rapids, Okaterra, that through whom we could pilot the Michigan wool supply chain that we've been tracing. Little known fact is in the 1800s, Michigan was the top wool producing state in the whole country, a position it held for 50 years. In fact, the center of that production was right here in Washtenaw County. But now, in our interviews, some of what we've been learning, things like a farmer outside of Grand Rapids with over 2,000 pounds of wool in his barn that knows that the most economical choice for him is to dig a giant hole and bury it, and that the $15 plastic bags that hold the wool is the most valuable part of that system. But wool isn't the only fiber material that grows in Michigan. Flax, as I mentioned, grows here very well. We've been working with community members, and through a Michigan Fibershed Community Grow Project, over 200 growers across the state of Michigan have been growing flax since 2022. And this season marks the first large-scale commercial planting in Michigan, with Michigan farmers eager to introduce flax into their rotations. So it's been 16 years since polyester became that dominant textile fiber globally, but it doesn't need to keep sliding in that direction. We still have fiber farmers here with us. The sheep are still grazing in Michigan pastures, and sustainable food and fiber systems can scale together. And when these conditions are right, it also means sometimes you get a golden puzzle piece, like this weekend when I showed up at Home Ec Farm in Detroit to do a Michigan Fibershed community event planting flax. And Sergey arrives and he says, "Hi, Melissa, I'm from Russia. I just moved here. I used to grow 4,000 acres of flax a year, and I want to help you." And so now he is. It's incredible. And so now, bringing all of this challenge and problem back to campus, what struck me when I looked at this cycle is that we have folks innovating at every node of this cycle here on campus, and we brought them together in this Natural Fibers Research Collaborative to work with industry and help to scale the systems that could bring together what we need to remember our human connections to land, materials, and sustainable material production, and remembering that food and fiber are a pairing as old as human civilization, and maybe we could even imagine a sustainable food and fiber systems initiative. So with that, thank you.
All right, for our final speaker tonight, I'm pleased to introduce Dr. Sarah Nahar, a new lecturer in the program in the environment and part of the Tishman Center for Social Justice and the Environment. She's bringing up the rear tonight, as you will explain, giving a talk called The Back End of Food Justice, and her favorite food is Cheerios. Thank you.
If the power of food unifies, the power of excreta equalizes. We all do it, whether or not we talk about it. What we eat, we digest, metabolize, and excrete. Our bodies are little fertilizer factories. And while human excreta is commonly called waste, what we make is not waste, but the very things plants need to grow. There is a steady stream of nutrients in urine, nitrogen, potassium, and phosphorus. And there's a load in poop that contains carbon and water. Right? So urine is basically sterile. And so after simple pasteurization, or even sometimes just dilution, application of urine-derived fertilizers effectively return that nitrogen, potassium, and phosphorus to the soil. And along with bacteria, feces contains a lot of that carbon and water, so safe composting of human excreta is possible to do. It requires a combination of heat and time. But think of your shit as a health smoothie for a tree. And now food justice efforts have done an incredible job thinking through all the different dynamics, we've heard it tonight, of what it takes to create a beautiful plate of nutritious and delicious food. The labor issues, the governance, the cultural elements, the rhythms of eating, everything. And so this work is deeply aligned with that systemic analysis and the positive interventions that y'all have been making. And I'm here because the issues that food studies looks at don't stop at the plate and the palate. So take the journey of food with me. From mouth to esophagus, to the stomach, and then trillions of microbes break down the food for your cells to take up. Studies are now giving more attention to the gut and its relationship to everything, including your mental health. So as food becomes you, you are also making food for other beings. The small intestine then to the colon, things are cooking in there. And then your inner and outer sphincters, they worked as a team to negotiate when and how to return your leftovers as a gift to the world. See, all of life is metabolically connected, feeding and being fed. So, this is why it's crucial to care about the back end of food justice. Ecological sanitation is the umbrella term for the ways humans have safely created and closed the poop loop through nutrient cycling, collecting, transporting, and composting excreta with wood chips, etc. Right now, the typical toilet is wasting these nutrients, flushing them into drinkable water, and often then causing downstream contamination and pollution. There's a lot that could be said about the brilliance of the freshwater flush toilet and its ability to separate poopers from pathogens. However, that apparatus hides a host of problems. And food folks are rightly concerned about the ignorance that many have regarding to where their food comes from and the impacts of agribusiness and food apartheid on planetary and human health. And similarly, there's quite a bit of ignorance about where the food we make, our pee and our poop, goes after we make it. And little knowledge about alternatives to the porcelain throne and the benefits to planetary and human health that ecological sanitation can offer. Addressing the global food crisis will not be solved without dealing with the global sanitation crisis. So these stickier questions merit some attention in food justice circles. So one of the first steps is to break the taboo on talking about poo. And so my framework of excretory justice examines the conditions in which people are excreting and the journey of the excreta itself. So here's a picture of an experiment in excretory justice at the Urine Depot run by the Rich Earth Institute in Vermont, where people drop off the pee they collect at their house in special jugs, right? And we're going to build on their expertise together with Nancy Love's lab and civil and environmental engineering there on the left. And we're going to bring a urine depot to Ann Arbor. So if you are interested in that, come talk to me tonight. Because studies are proving that we could fertilize up to half of our crops, cutting down on the need for petroleum-based fertilizers. So in the next few years, hopefully you'll be able to pee with pride as you skip the water closet and help us close the poop loop, making sure that as many nutrients as possible don't cycle into rivers and lakes, but find safe, sustainable, inexpensive, and locally produced ways to nourish the land, infuse orchards, cultivate biochar, and more. So pictured here are some of those red funnel apparati that we use for nutrient capture and pee cycling. And here too is Sean Schaffner, who calls poop an acronym for the people's own organic power. Like food policy analysts who've had to change zoning codes to allow for different land uses, we must change municipal and township codes to allow for experiments in these closed-loop sanitation. And in a world where many things feel broken, know that something you do naturally, every day, without fail, can be part of healing the planet and enriching our relationship with our bodies and one another, feeding as you are being fed. So without further ado, let's hear about the food and make some research material.
We knew that Sarah would be perfect for bringing up the rear, so to speak. But we are excited now. So let's give a big round of applause for all of those speakers. Pretty amazing. I just want to give a shout out real quick. We have two of our other kind of core founders of SFSI, the Sustainable Food System Initiative, and this class with us tonight, Catherine Badgley here and Leslie Huey, who have kept it together, this course and our initiative overall. So now we're going to hear for just a moment from Josiah Foster, Development Manager of Growing Hope, a little about the kitchen. And this kitchen is also where the food tonight that we'll hear a little bit more about in a minute is coming from. And Mohammed, don't worry, I won't put you on the spot for a long speech. I'll just ask you a question or so after Josiah cues us up for just a few.
Thank you so much for having me. My name is Josiah Foster. I'm here with Growing Hope, where we're a food systems organization where we believe that food should be a human right. I am the development manager. That just means I get money. So in Ypsilanti, we figured out, Ypsilanti, like all other cities, is full of entrepreneurs, especially food entrepreneurs. right? So here at Growing Hope, we created an incubator kitchen. And if you don't know what an incubator kitchen is, it's a place where you can use a commercial kitchen at an hour at a time, paying a low price. And here at Growing Hope, we are pretty lenient when it comes to rules. Amanda probably knows. So like we are pretty strong at, you know, giving people access to food, growing their food, and being entrepreneurs and selling their food. So as we know, commercial kitchens are expensive. It is hard for people who came from almost nothing to just buy a commercial kitchen out of nowhere. You need credit checks. You need a good background. Sometimes if the way you look can just disqualify you from getting what you need. So what we made was investing in BIPOC people, investing in women-owned food businesses, and we made that incubator kitchen. So we started in 2019. Fast forward all the way to 2026. We have, you know, grown like over 68 food businesses. Some you might seen. If you go downtown through Ypsilanti, you might see a coffee shop called Bird Dog Bakery. They came from us. Barra Bakes, they came from us as well. The Juicery Place, No Label Juice. This was all successful businesses that came from us, and it wouldn't have been possible if it wasn't for that incubator kitchen space. Some other issues that we noticed when we were doing this incubator kitchen space is when people would get more successful, start selling, they would start to use more of our space hours. And, you know, as you may have known, we only have one commercial kitchen. And it takes a lot of time. Sometimes I remember Bird Dog was taking 40 hours out of the week. And that left, you know, little room for our new people who would come in. And also, we had another bakery who was just looking for a retail space. That is another barrier when it comes to people who want to sell in Ypsilanti. Retail spaces are very few, and it's just another barrier when it comes to food justice and the right to food. People want to sell in their own city, they should be able to. So we got to thinking and, you know, experimenting. This has been a plan of Julius's for a long time. It's just to create an accelerator kitchen space. So what we're building right now, and it will be done, I would say around May 16th. So that's very soon. We decided to create an accelerator kitchen space. And an accelerator kitchen space is that in-between space in between an incubator kitchen space and getting your own, you know, pop retail shop, your own, you know, retail experience. So that in-between space is for you to get some more capital, for you to find that retail space, and it's usually for 1 to 2 years. We're proud to say that we won't be charging much for people who use our space, our incubator kitchen space, our accelerator kitchen space to sell food. Only $1,200 to $1,800 a month, depending on the business and financials. It'll be a case-by-case basis. And also, you know, connecting people. We have resources here at Growing Hope, connecting you with small business accelerator places, getting you involved with grants, getting you involved, you know, because some people just don't know. You don't know what you don't know. So we have mentors, and we're our incubator kitchen manager also does one-on-ones and helps our food entrepreneurs. So I'm so proud to be saying, you know, this will be built in a couple weeks. If you come to our farmers market, which is coming up May, also the second Saturday in May. I'll be giving out tours. It won't be 100% done, but you can come get a hard hat tour. I would love to show you the space. Long-term impact from our makers. People will give back to you. Like, for example, we unleashed 3 bakers into the world. We have Bird Dog Bakery, B Cubed Bakery, and then we have Barra Bakes. We unleashed them all at the same time. He was like, whoa, what's going to happen? But when it's just amazing to see, when I went into one of the bakeries and they ran out of bread, they would like, go to this bakery, go to B Cubed Bakery. They have what you have. They support each other and they support the community. And I'm so proud to be opening this space. Yeah, and I'm also proud to, introduce Samosa House. They are going to be our first people in that space. They will be opening around, I would say, June or July-ish, and I would love to invite you guys over to their grand opening. We will have a huge party. You're all invited. And I just want to, thank you for having me.
Come on in, come join us. We won't. I'll give you a little bit of background for those of you who don't know me. So I was the founding executive director for the first 17 years of Growing Hope, and building the incubator kitchen in our year-round market was the last thing I did before I left in 2017. So the fact that under Julius's leadership and Josiah and the team there, it is now expanded 3 times over. They've had this many brick and mortar buildings, and they're moving. That picture was, it was an old bank drive-through, and now they're enclosing the other parts to expand. And we thought, so perfect tonight then to have the first accelerator kitchen tenant in. And I have to say, Khadija, Muhammad's mother, is the amazing chef behind this. She's out catering and cooking, etc. tonight, but made this food for us and brought her, sent her son this evening. We have our food all around town because she pops up at our Normal Park neighborhood garage sale and other places, and there's like lines down the street because these samosas and other things she serves are so delicious. So the fact that it'll be a whole cafe, I mean, come to Ipsy. If you didn't need a reason, come to Ipsy. Do you want to just tell us where we're eating tonight? And if you want to say anything about what it's like working in that incubator kitchen, you're welcome to, but no pressure.
So tonight we're going to be having veggie samosas, chicken samosas, and potatoes with spinach and feta cheese. And as for working in the incubator kitchen, I just came from Minnesota myself, so I'm moving back to Michigan. So haven't gotten the chance to work in the kitchen myself, but hopefully soon. Okay. But yeah, and there's a lot of food out there, so just come out and enjoy.
Great. So a couple other, thank you, Muhammad. So a couple other quick announcements. You students and others, you'll see this in the newsletter, so I won't say much more of that. I want to make a couple housekeeping things. Students, a number of you came in late. If you are a student enrolled in this class, please make sure you sign in on that sheet if you want your extra credit for attending in person this evening before we leave. And I wanted just to say a huge thank you. All of you this evening, a huge thank you to our introducers, to our guests, etc. A huge thank you to everyone who's participated in this class all semester. Community members who are on the Zoom, you're welcome to come again next week, but we're really just doing internal reflections on the class, so no more guest speakers. This is really the last piece of that. So I appreciate everyone here this evening. Let's go have some delicious samosas. Thank you so much.